Reg, you come in. Reg, you're gonna come on the sides at least.
You're always welcome, but stand by. Well, it depends where Betty wants to go, whether an Ada, and see if we can jump in.
Any subject. But I wanted to talk about colorism. I also wanted to talk about how women are treated in Nepal by some of the brothers.
Well, this
in general, I'm not mentioning any names.
No, but we're always going to be solution-based, remember? If we're going to do that, we can talk about anything.
How are we going to get a solution? Sometimes we don't have a solution.
Is the camera on? The camera's on, right? DJ, bro, it's on. It's on already. Yeah. Oh, good. In that case, listen, so quick thing. Welcome to our corner. Sister Bear's come down again. Obviously, when Sister Bear comes down, we'll try to make her feel welcome. Yeah, I was trying to make Sister Bear feel welcome. So, how would you like to start? There's some issues you said you like to tackle.
Yes.
And maybe we could get a nice little speech going. So,
yes.
Go ahead.
Hold on, can I ask? Are you going to be a regular in the park now?
I'm going to try. Now college is finished.
And it's quite expensive as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but I get the coach and stuff like that. You know what I mean? When I stop coming, the student loans run out.
So travel a long way. Sister Bear is just going to start us off. Yeah. Welcome to our corner. We'll be there for a bit. We're going to start nice and small. So get a bit.
I wanted to talk about colorism, but I also wanted to talk about Sudan, the Sudanese revolution that's going on right now, currently, and stuff. But I just think colorism is a problem in the community. It doesn't really get discussed. A lot of times colorism is spoken about from a woman's perspective. Oh, she's using bleaching cream and stuff like that. She's got self-hate. But it's never really spoken about from a black man's perspective and the self-hate racial self-hate that a lot of black men have. And how the darker members, i.e. the mahogany brown, treat the lighter skinned brothers and sisters. You know, because obviously we know the hierarchy of white supremacy. You know, whiteness is the best. So if you're a black person and the lighter you are, the closer you are to white. And if you're dark and mahogany, then you're the darkest brown, you're at the bottom.
So is it what you're saying that there might be some level of mistreatment on the male side where darker males have a bit of a negative attitude towards so would you say that they're more reacting to something rather than acting?
I would say, of course it's reaction. Because like in the Nigerian community, I didn't know anything about colorism until I had Caribbean friends. I didn't know anything because we don't really have it. I can only say from my experience in the Nigerian community, everybody comes in so many different shades. It was never discussed. You just accepted it.
You mean the Nigerian community in the UK or in general?
In general, from what I've experienced, I can only say from what I've experienced, but we don't have this colorism thing.
It's going to bring out a federal.
But that's recent. That's a recent thing.
Wait, what do you call recent? Are you from Nigeria?
Recent. I'm talking about the 70s, the 80s. It's recent. What the Caribbean is historical because it was a slave colony. That tier system. That's the colorism in West Africa right now. Which that's a recent thing. But when I grew up, we didn't have all this picking on different colours because everybody was a different colour. It's just what it was. It was my Caribbean friends and I realised that whatever you do, don't be black and don't be dark brown.
I always like to look at the power dynamics, right? How do you see the lighter brothers reacting to the darker brother they say? What do you see? Because how I've seen it is because the power dynamic was always within the lighter brothers, they seem to have more of a defence in the sense of it affects them much less. As in, like, you can have a joke about it, and they don't necessarily take it too serious. Right? Which I have an understanding for that because the way I see it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, because someone has gone through so much more historically, they might be afforded more of a leeway to say what they want because they understand that these people have gone through much more harder than other people. But I don't know. This is what you're saying.
But I think there's a different dynamic when it's a man saying it to a woman.
So you're talking about men to women?
Yeah, like when dark-skinned men have insulted me. Because my dad was like a dark-skinned black man. It was just like, they're like Jedi's colour, yeah? But me and my sister are like our more and stuff like that. So my dad never mentioned the different colours in the family.
So are you talking about direct between dark-skinned men and dark-skinned women? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm talking about dark-skinned men and how they like to light-skinned black women.
So that's what you're talking
and
about?
how they've been abusive.
Right, okay.
Because they've been oppressed, because they're dark, And you know, it's harder to be a dark-skinned black man than it is to be like your
I
colour.
misunderstood.
Or,
I thought you were talking about dark-skinned men versus light-skinned men. You're talking about
I'm talking
how
about
dark-skinned men treat dark-skinned women.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
I'm forgiveness. 1,000 forgivenesses. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Okay, well this is
Dark
definitely...
skinned men on dark skinned women.
Right.
light as women, like brown. I would consider me and you brown skin. I would consider him red bone. I would consider Jedi and Maku. I would consider them like mahogany brown dark skin. No, you wouldn't be considered dark skin because it's a lot darker than you. Because you're not dark.
I think I'm the epitome of melanin.
No, you don't be silly. You're not because it's dark. When we talk about dark,
It's a joke,
it's
mate.
real dark.
It's a joke.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm actually being quite serious because this is actually a
I know you're
serious
being
topic.
serious. I'm not
It's actually a serious
trying to,
topic.
you know.
It is there, you're correct. And so because we're going to be trying to be solution based. First, have we established why do you think it's happening? Let's start with
It's white supremacy.
Okay, so
Yeah.
nice answer.
Everyone knows why it happens.
Right.
Because globally, black people are at the bottom. And the darker the opposite you are from whiteness, you're going to have a harder time. Because a dark-skinned black man like Jedi is going to have a lot harder time and going to be seen more aggressive than someone like your colour or Finger's colour. Because they feel threatened. Yeah, and especially if you're like, for example, like, I'm not talking about Jedi in particular, I'm just talking about his physique and how he looks like. If you've got locks, you're dark, you're big, then also when you see, they're going to be many white people who feel threatened by that. And when they tell a story, man might not even done anything, they will say, oh, man was aggressive. Man might not even got up off his chair. But because of how he looks, they've already got a premeditated idea of what they've got in their head.
And are you saying that because...
And they're taking it out on...
right, so we're saying because of that
brown
strain,
skin women like
they're taking
me.
it on people who look more closer to them.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting conversation. And I can't say that's wrong because I do know that when people are put in a certain corner, they might lash out.
Yes.
And the closer someone looks at themselves, if they have self-hatred,
Yes.
then you're gonna experience
Well,
that.
that's what we see a lot in our community.
Of course.
I think in so many different ways, and the reality is that perception manifests itself in our community. The black man in general is seen as the most aggressive being on the planet, and then the degrees of that perception increase. The darker skin he becomes,
Yes.
and that perception exists within our community as well as outside of our community when it comes to how we relate to each other as black men and women, black men to black man, black women to black women, you know what I'm saying? All the variations in between. So it's just about us understanding that and not inflicting each other with that negativism.
I think you have a point.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think what you're saying is if someone's been bombarded with high levels of hate and it's creating this kind of like a persona, maybe the solution is to bombard them with love. I know it sounds funny, but where someone's been mocked for looking a certain way, why don't we compliment them? You know?
And
I think it's the different dynamic when it's a woman though. If I'm being attacked by a man and you're being very aggressive, you're going to be looking to get love from her. Because it's degraded. Some of the way I've been spoken to by certain dark-skinned men is disgusting.
Well, I think
I'm threatening.
I think that's we're dealing with two different things now. If we're dealing with the perception of dark-skinned black men, yeah, that they are aggressive. That's what I'm saying. That's not to say that there are not dark-skinned black men that are aggressive. Just what I'm saying. There are men that are aggressive. Yes. But I think that if we're dealing with the perception that people are going to assume that because you're a dark-skinned black man, you're being aggressive. That's what I thought you were talking about before. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying that. So we're not talking about excusing aggressive behaviour. We're talking about challenging our perceptions in terms of whether the dark-skinned black man is being aggressive or not. That's what I'm saying. When a man's being aggressive, a man's being aggressive. That's what I'm saying. And we just have to be intolerant of that behaviour. But in terms of our perceptions, that is something that we can manage ourselves, isn't it? In terms of how we relate to each other.
Have you found maybe something that you would like to do to try to minimise that kind of effect that you've experienced?
I just don't like the way many dark-skinned men that I've encountered just don't say colorism and self-hate seems to be a domain of a woman because women are judged on their beauty, men are not judged on their beauty. So a man can hide the self-hate that he has, but when he encounters a woman that's like, you can tell the man that's got self-hate. Right. Because they're constantly, when I'm getting attacked from my colour and I'm being told that this is not how I'm naturally I'm going to take offence to it.
Are you saying that black men are not challenged
on their self-hate?
Yeah, in a sense of...
dark skin.
I'm saying, but in a sense of...
Hide it. We're told that we're all black.
Yeah,
when you're being abusive
No, what I'm asking, because to me, the idea of black men preferring lighter skinned women. It's quite a well discussed phenomenon in our community. Like, it's not.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about them being abusive to light-skinned women. I'm not talking about them perverting it. I'm talking about how abusive they are because they are at the bottom.
Okay, so let me clarify what you're saying. Are you saying that darker skinned black men,
Yeah.
because of internalized self-hate,
Yeah.
tend to be more abusive to lighter skinned women?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
I've
my
misheard
experience.
again.
That's what I've experienced.
Right, I misheard again. So I have to retrain my.
I'm not. I can't say I have anything to substantiate that. I don't know that complexion is a factor in terms of mistreatment as far as we are concerned as men.
Yes.
This is what I'm saying. I've not come across that. If anything, as far as at least verbal abuse goes, I would argue that darker skinned women get that a lot worse.
That's what I've seen. I could be
from
wrong.
us as black men.
Yeah, and maybe you can enlighten us. But I thought that there might be a lot of self-hatred going on where they actually will more likely say horrible things towards a highly melanated woman rather than a lightly melanated.
No, I can't say that they don't get dark-skinned black women don't get it for being dark. Yeah, they do. But what I'm also saying, but if you're lighter as well, brown skin like me, you will also get it. It's not just. I don't want to. I'm not trying to compare. Suffering. Do you see what I'm saying?
So basically, what we're saying is that the black men are abusive. It's not a complexion thing. If you're gonna get it, dark skin sister's gonna get it, the light skin sister's gonna get it, then there's abuse across the board.
But there's different motivations. If a dark-skinned man is abusing a dark-skinned woman, it's not jealousy because they're both dark.
No,
yeah? But if a dark-skinned man is abusing a light-skinned woman, it's jealousy because she's higher up the totem pole.
All right, so you say when you include yourself, are you saying there are men who are darker than yourself?
Yeah,
and
brown.
Okay, and they're mistreating you because you are of a lighter tone.
Yeah.
Right, so
and
again,
I have advantages.
Okay.
I'm not going to be seen as threatening as them because they're darker.
Okay.
See, I mean, there's advantages to be lighter. You know what I mean? When you see how the white supremacy reacts and how people who are lighter get treated better overall, compared if you're a dark-skinned black person, you'll get treated a lot worse in this racist system. And I know that because I had a dad and I've got people that are dark and I see how they get treated compared to when you're lighter. You know what I mean? The lighter you are, the better you get. And that how they get treated, a lot of dark-skinned people start taking it out on their light-skinned brothers or sisters.
Okay, so you're talking about the jealousy. Right.
Yeah.
To me, I think that the way to remedy this is to start at what the root of the issue is, in the sense of the fact that if it's white supremacy and therefore the hierarchy is the lighter is the better, then we need to validate the darkest, and start from there.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? In terms of validating everything else above it. You know what I'm saying? We're not gonna address issues of abuse that are motivated by colorism dynamics just by addressing the abuse. We have to address the motivation for it. So if the motivation is a complexion thing, then we have to address our own self-hatred in terms of our various complexions. You know what I'm saying? And just from that perspective. So I don't know if I'm making complete sense.
How do you do that?
What I would do is you have to be very particular. So you have to say things like, one of the issues might be, if we're not putting darker skinned people on magazines or on video games, whatever it might be, then we have to have a particular rule that we're going to do this.
Yes.
Yeah? So you make a very constructive effort to locate models who are dark skinned, actors who are dark skinned, put them in high prevalent places, so people can aspire to that and I guess lessen the burden of feeling like they're an outcast. That would be one way.
Which I think is happening to some degree at the moment.
Well, this is what I try to write. So in the philosophy I do, I pen this down. So we actively look for people to represent these areas. But I think that is a way, by deliberately doing something without hoping it just happens by osmosis. Sometimes you have to actually program it. Because I think the thing with white supremacy and these kind of dynamics is they were done by programming.
Yes.
And because they're done by programming, you might have to actually program them out.
Yes.
I mean, it's not going to happen organically.
Yeah.
See?
And like there's a magazine called DDS, Divine Dark Skin.
Okay.
Started by an African American woman. movement to celebrate brown skin and dark skin women, and it's a beautiful magazine.
Let me show you the dynamic of what I'm trying to say, right? So we always say that everyone is equally black and black is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
However, we put a special emphasis on highly melanated
Yes.
sisters, right?
Yes.
So we will spend time talking about how dark skin is beautiful. We won't spend time talking about how light skin is beautiful, even though all is beautiful.
Yes.
There's been enough years of that already.
Yeah,
that we
yes,
can now
yes.
count.
Address the balance.
Yeah,
And
it's balanced.
There's precedents for this. We're not reinventing it all because every black kind of conscious movement has had some impact upon this image thing. Like this is why people go natural, and you know what I'm saying. And the image thing is something that is always addressed, and so, oftentimes the people that are in the thick of the movement kind of lead that, but then it becomes popular. So like the Black Arts movement in America, everybody in it, and like the whole Black is Beautiful movement comes out of the Black Power movement. The Black Power movement is more people that are politically organising. The Black is Beautiful movement are people that were influenced by that and developed kind of cultural, kind of artistic kind of expression out of it, and they directed, kind of propaganda at our image. So I'm saying, so natural hair and afro and dark skin, and for Rastafari it was locks, and you know what I'm saying, that kind of thing. So there is precedent for it in our history. It's just that we often lose out on it because the movements get destroyed and we try to get mainstream with it.
But even if you read Angela Davis, and if you look at the people who were prominent in the Black Panthers, they were both light-skinned women with dark-skinned men. And if you read the memoirs of the darker-skinned women complaining about how the light-skinned women were put on a pedestal and how they were mistreated.
Yeah, I
So
don't
even
deny.
that black and beautiful narrative.
I don't deny that there are contradictions in our movements. I don't think the contradictions necessarily define the entire movement. I think both of these things can exist at the same time. There are people. For example, if you go into a movement with a complex, yeah, you're not necessarily going to get rid of that complex immediately as a result of being a part of that movement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that it's possible for brothers in the movement to manifest that contradiction in terms of how they relate to the sisters, but the movement itself to have an impact whereby it challenges the idea that lighter skin is better, that straighter hair is better,
Yes.
which is a fact. These are things that are facts. Like it's not even like even among, because you are not immune from being lighter skin. Didn't make you immune from the self-hatred in the sense of the fact that there's a hair dynamic to it as well. So the lighter skin sisters may not have had it as much with the skin, but they may have had it just as much with the hair and had to go through it with the hair. You know what I'm saying? And so there are these, and then I mean, me coming from Jamaica, you see that, like Rastafari was a very big thing because like look at my hair right now, yeah. I had locks up until a few months ago. I cut them and I'm starting them again, but I'm starting them again like just like free form, and in the sense of the fact that for people that turned to Rastafari, the free form locks thing was a rejection of Eurocentric beauty images, and so it was an idea that we're not even going to try to pretty up the thing. This is our hair, this is how it grows, and just what I'm saying. And so it's a very extreme response to the indoctrination, but people had to, and I got my second mother, I shared this publicly, so I don't mind sharing it on camera, but she started freeform locks in the 70s, 80s, and she said when she went natural, it's not that she believed that she was beautiful, it's that she understood that if somebody could convince her that she was not beautiful, that she could convince herself, you know what I'm saying? And so people did that, they challenged themselves to look in the mirror and see themselves as what they are as beautiful, you know what I'm saying? So I think we can acknowledge that, as well as acknowledging the contradictions that were also manifested.
I wasn't around in the 60s, so I don't really know. You know, this black is beautiful image. I have certain images, and they are light-skinned people, like red-bone people. They're not like. So when you're saying black is beautiful, who are you meaning? Because all the black people, I'm thinking Angela Davis, Kathleen, all these people are light-skinned people.
No, but you're mentioning two people. There were many dark-skinned women and men in the what you say? For example, over here. All right, this year is the 40th anniversary since the death of a woman called Olive Morris. Yeah, she was an activist over here in this country, dark-skinned black woman, prominent in the movement. Yeah. dark skinned black woman, melanated, very well melanated.
I don't know.
Do you know Grace Jones?
I'm not saying that. But
Yeah, I remember Grace Jones, but I thought Grace Jones was a
was Claudia Jones dark skinned?
Because
I don't know. I've only ever seen black and white pictures of her.
no, but with Grace Jones,
What's her name? Sis?
Mine.
Huh?
My name.
Yeah.
Kai.
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 Okay.
with Grace Jones, when you look at with Grace Jones, she was projected as a crazy black woman, wild. The next decade later, you have a Letware, dark-skinned black woman, very similar to Grace Jones, with devil horns down her back. So they're associated dark skin with devilishness, and it's like every decade they fetishize a black woman that's dark skinned with a short crew cut, yeah, and she's crazy. Then now we've got Lupita.
Yes.
Yeah,
She's not
another
crazy.
dark
She's not
skinned woman.
crazy.
Yeah, but she played like Just Being a Slave. That's what she's known for, and did she win an Oscar for? Yeah, this same
but
narrative.
I think there's a few things in that. Yeah. Firstly, when it comes to the slave depiction, I think that the slave depiction is one that affects all of us, like in terms of, regardless of complexion. I think the archetype of us playing slaves is something that is kind of across the board. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that there's not a special dynamic in terms of
When it's a dark, no, I'm going to disagree because she's dark skinned. The dynamic, mammy is never going to be a light skinned, red bone fat woman.
That's being accepted.
It's going to be a dark skinned woman.
That's being
There's
accepted.
certain things that are germane to being dark skinned.
That is totally the case.
I don't feel celebrated by Grace Jones because she's came across as crazy. I don't feel celebrated by Alette Wet because they projected dark skin as being devilish, and it fed into a narrative
With Alette Wet?
You see the picture. You need to see the picture of Alette Wet with devil horns all the way down her back, and they made her even darker than what she is. Yeah. So the same thing. So that feeds into a narrative to attack dark-skinned black women. Because they're seen as more aggressive. They would never put, like Amber Rose, who's got the shaved head, she would never be projected with devil horns, ever.
No.
She was projected as voluptuous, sexy, because she's light-skinned.
But
when you're dark-skinned, they wouldn't do that. They demonize dark-skin.
They did the same thing with a Colours of Benetton advert. I don't think everybody must have seen the advert with the two babies, the white baby and the black baby. The black baby's obviously dark skin with the horns. So there is no disagreement with what you're saying, but I think that what Riza said earlier, I think what we've always said in terms of how to address it is what you do is you validate the darker skin, right? Just what I'm saying, and I have experience with that in the sense of the fact that growing up I've got 3 brothers. The youngest one is darker skin. Is the darker skin one, and so our parents used to celebrate his complexion. They didn't celebrate the rest of our complexion like that. We all knew that black was beautiful.
Yes.
We all got taught that black was beautiful. But in terms of a specific celebration of complexion, he was the one that got it. And none of us ever felt threatened, unvalidated by it, because we understood the dynamic. We were taught about the dynamics of what it is. And to be fair, I understood the impact of it myself growing up, because I was definitely attracted to darker skinned women. And I got to a point where I realized I was an anomaly among the man them because of it. I remember feeling that, like, yo, I'm the only one on this thing. Right? That's what I'm saying. Like, what's going on? Like, no, seriously, it's a realization, because where I come from, darker skin was celebrated. So when you hit puberty and the man start to have conversations, you're realizing the levels of the indoctrination and the thing. So I'm saying, so when I say it, I can speak from experience of coming from a place whereby this was validated. So I never looked at light skinned women as ugly. No. Just what I'm saying. It wasn't that I looked at light skinned women as ugly. It was just I understood, and so it.
You underestimate it. You're a man. You underestimate it. I specifically said to you, dark skinned men and how they treat brown skinned women.
Sorry, what am I underestimating?
You underestimate, because what you're saying is all you need to do is celebrate the darkness.
No, that's not. No.
One moment, can you finish? But if you're being abused by a dark-skinned man, and it's getting threatening and violent, they're not going to celebrate this darkness. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen.
Fine.
You're underestimating because you're a man. You can defend yourself.
Maybe so.
When you're a woman, it's a different thing.
Maybe so. I think that if we're addressing colorism,
it's a different thing.
I think that if we're addressing colorism and how to resolve issues around colorism, then it's a psychological thing. If we're addressing abuse, yeah, and how to deal with abuse, it's psychological and physical. So I'm saying that the issues are related. If you're saying that men are abusing women because of indoctrination to do with colorism, the way to stop the abuse motivated by that is to address the psychology that motivates that abuse.
So where does that psychology come from?
The system that we're in is white supremacy. So we have to deconstruct white supremacy, as Sister was saying earlier, yeah? If it's coming from white supremacy, and white supremacy affects us on a psychological level, then we have to address how white supremacy affects us on a psychological level.
So are we the keepers being our own victims then? Because we understand white supremacy, but majority I would like to think understands how racism takes its form.
Yeah.
I live in Jamaica,
Yeah.
right? And I see on a daily basis black-skinned women referring to other black-skinned women as, well, you're blackie.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying, yeah.
And I kind of like, because I'm a black woman, you understand? And I kind of take a step back from that because I turn around and say to myself, what is it in their reflection that you see that you can't identify as being beauty? So when we measure beauty in terms of whose gauge are we measuring beauty against, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
So I think sometimes we have to take on the responsibility for our own selves, because we can't keep on saying it's our psychology, because if it is our psychology, then we need to fix that.
Yes.
So how do we fix it? Because we already know it's broken.
Yes. So I think before you came, what the brother was saying, what we were talking about earlier, was deliberate programming, like even reprogramming. And what he was saying was he gave an example of his younger brother being darker, so they celebrate that. But then they're saying they celebrate him being lighter because lighter skinned people have always had many years of enjoyment and so forth and celebration. So we focus, it's just a balancing act.
Yeah.
And then that's where we're at. And then
But then do we level, then do we measure blackness by shades of hue, or is it a language, or is it an experience, is it a history, is it a shared language?
It's all of those things.
All right, so then does it really matter about the hue of blackness?
It doesn't, it shouldn't.
it shouldn't.
Right?
It shouldn't.
But in the system that we're living at the moment, it does. And so we have to address that. Just what I'm saying.
Can
And
I
I'm
just
saying,
say
Sorry.
something? I have a niece and she's dark skinned, man. And what I did was I ran round the whole room because I'm from Manchester. I went around looking for a dark skinned dollar for her. And I had to go to Greater Manchester to find it. But I could always find
Rastafari, Lord of all Lord.
You sound like you come from Portland.
Yeah. So to say that it doesn't matter because you can't even find that representation, the different hues of blackness, you can't find
But you
it.
see what the brother was saying, what we're saying, let's cut in. But then if you actually have a particular programming, if you own a dough factory yourself, you are deliberately making that particular hue. You're deliberately making it because you recognise that there isn't any there.
Yeah.
So it's a counterback, isn't it?
but again, that comes back to my earlier point. The first black dolls for black children were created by black people who were part of black power movements.
Yes.
That's a reality because they understood the indoctrination, so they created these black dolls. Yes.
No, I wouldn't say the first. You can argue that throughout history there haven't been
We've been
dolls
black dolls.
that were so
No, you understand what I mean. I'm talking about in a Western context, yeah, you know what I'm saying, like this. Whatever countries black people were in, black people created dolls for their children. So I know, for example, that the organisation of Malcolm Josiah Garvey had a doll making factory specific for this purpose. Yeah,
you're
that's a
saying
fact.
That's part of the education that
It's a part of the process. So if sister needs to go and find a black doll for her, was it niece? Yeah, there are black people manufacturing black dolls fit for the purpose. But I'm saying that when we look at our history, we will find that our people have done different things in order to remedy these
I think
situations.
the point is this, the searching.
Huh?
It's the searching,
no, I
you
agree.
understand? And I think,
And sorry,
I'm
but-
very fond of Garvey, very
Yes.
fond. And I think he came very prematurely for what his knowledge and what he was seeking to achieve in terms of his understanding of economics, social mobility, social enterprise, ownership and self-organization. Yeah? What I would have liked to have seen 80 years on is a movement that still mirrored what the Garveyites did. How many chapters did he have? How many Garveyites did he have? He had over 100 and how much?
Yeah, it's in the millions.
Yeah, right. Okay. So we already know that our ability to self-organize economically, as social enterprises and as communities, that's within our gift. I struggle with why we can't replicate that. Who are our leaders, or who are those that we would say represent us as leaders, or those who would say, okay, we would identify you as somebody that represents the cause of our blackness? I don't see it. I don't see it. I'm here in the UK and I don't see it. I don't hear it. There's not a person in this park right now who I could go to and say, yeah, this person here has got the ability to lead in the same way as some of those heroes. Malcolm X, you can go into all of that. We can go into Garvey. Garvey is, you know, we can talk about Pan-Africanism, we can talk about Nkrumah, we can talk about all of these people, but I'm tired of talking about them. Yeah, the books are there. The ideas are there. So my question is what is it that prevents? It can't always be structural racism and white supremacy and all of that. It can't always be that.
The problem is that it is always that. The problem has never changed.
You think so?
I think she's talking about self-responsibility.
I'm talking about self. We can't be the victims all the time.
It depends where you're talking about. If you're talking about in the place that's today called the United States of America, which is a corporation, but let's put that aside. If that's what you're talking about, then you might have heard of a man by the name of the Noble Drew Ali. The Noble Drew Ali was working with Marcus Garvey, and he founded the old Canaanite temple, which later became the Moorish-Science Temple. Now, his movement wasn't only a kind of racial identity movement, but he was also talking from a national point of view. These people who have been enslaved were previously known as Moors, who have been called Negro, Black, colored, all different labels, that is not actually what they are. So to proclaim their nationality, to proclaim their true identity, is the only way they can be recognized by the Constitution of America. So as I said, it depends where you're talking about. And if you're talking about the Caribbean, it is also, well, in most countries in the Caribbean are in fact countries, not like what the so-called United States of America is. So it kind of depends. When you say that there is no leader, I don't know, what exactly do you mean?
All right, okay. I have a problem as a consumer searching for that black dog.
Yeah, nothing else to get hold
right?
of it.
I have a problem as a consumer having to go to a different community to have to buy items that should be available in my community and owned and produced by those who reflect me. All right? You know, most of the Caribbean food, are not owned by us. They're not imported by us. Ackee, Sunpride at the present moment, do you know who owns Sunpride if you buy Ackee and jerk chicken and sauce and that? Do you know who owns it? It's an Asian company, right? And what they do is they put black people up in their marketing campaign to make it feel like as if it's black owned, and it's not black owned. So when you go back to Jamaica now and you see the Ackee farming and where they're picking Ackee and all of that, you know how much they're getting paid? You know how much? Probably about £2 a day.
No, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money that they're earning over here off of the backs of people. But they've got
So what you're talking about is economic empowerment.
This is what I'm talking about, and the leaders around that conversation.
But a lot of people,
how do we get
it's important. The perception, a lot of people will not understand the idea that a black dog is important.
Yes, it is.
So many people, wouldn't, especially if I notice that if I speak to my mom about certain things, she would always think, because she grew up around in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So some things that are happening to me would not happen to her.
Yeah.
So for some of us, they wouldn't even think that the child needs a black dollar.
So how
do you know what I
would
mean?
you remedy that then? If people don't understand the importance of black dogs, how do we get them to understand the importance of black dogs?
You talk about it, and you produce it. One of the things is problems of things are getting manufactured on the continent, and people are not bringing them over here. obviously you've got the EU's like a protection racket. There's all these tariffs that you can't, Africans can't do this, they can't do that. But it's important that things that are produced in the motherland are brought to to England, because this can solve a lot of our issues.
So what I have a problem is that we should be able to have a black consortium of business in the UK.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We have been traders all our lives. We've controlled trade. We know how to trade. Yeah? But here in the UK, I find we're very lackadaisical. Because we're waiting for somebody to do it. And when that somebody does it, then we're like crabs in a barrel and we pull them down before they get the opportunity to move forward. And one of the things that I would hope is that we have, as you say, is a reconditioning of mindset, moving away from some of the foolishness that we get ourselves absorbed in. If we could get a consortium of black businesses, Africa at the present moment, Ethiopia at the present moment is one of the fastest developing countries in terms of economy, right? And they have an expected 10% growth rate in their GDP.
Yes.
That consortium needs to go back to what we were talking about, trading back in Africa. Because at the present moment, we don't have no say in Africa. So if we had a
diaspora, or do you mean the
diaspora? I'm talking about the diaspora, because as the diaspora, we have a lot of relevance in shaping I can speak for the Caribbean, shaping the Caribbean and shaping Africa. All right. But what I'm saying is that the need for a black business consortium to be able to move our agenda for ourselves. Because politics ain't going to do it, but spending power will. So how much does it cost to set up a manufacturing plant in Africa?
Well, no, it might. In some senses, it might be cheaper.
Same as everywhere.
I'm just using that as an example.
No, but the point is, because I feel like before we get to factory, there are many steps that we have to fulfill. Just what I'm saying, and I feel like we have to assess where we're at the moment. So it's not that we're not bringing anything into the country, because for example. I know where to get shea butter if I want it, and I know all the shea butter is coming from West Africa. Do you know what I'm saying? So there are things that we're doing, and if we're going to solve problems, we have to acknowledge what we are doing and how we can develop from where we're at. You know what I'm saying? For example, I've been wearing African garments all my life, and I got most of them from Ghanaians and Nigerians who had shops whereby they were importing the clothes. You know what I'm saying? So there are things that we're doing. We need to unify the thing a little bit more. I know people that make black dogs. You know what I'm saying? And these kinds of things. If I said to you, there are 2 businesses in London that are mobile delivery services for groceries that we eat. Right? That's what I'm saying. So there's one called Live and Direct. The other one is owned by a sister, and I'm forgetting the name of it because I only heard about this a few months ago. Something basket or something like that. But I've forgotten the name of the business. Next time I come, I'll know everything. But there's 2 of them. What it is that they're small businesses, and oftentimes we don't know about them because obviously marketing budgets cost a lot. You have to raise awareness of your business, if that makes sense. That's what I'm saying. But if more of us knew about it, more of us could buy from them.
That's why you'd have the business consortium.
No, I'm hearing you. I'm just saying that a business consortium has to start from somewhere to get to a consortium. That's what I'm saying. So
Can I say something? You see, when you talk about consortium, I think that's a higher level. Let's break everything down. Everything is a system. So if you view it as a pyramid, you need to find, in order to have a pyramid stand, you have to start at the base. Alright? So if we break it down into, so I agree with a lot of the things you guys are saying, but I think what it is rather than go right at the top, first you need to start take out the misconception about I'm Jamaican, I'm Nigerian, I'm South African, because if you don't take that out, right, you will have a myopic view of the solution itself. So first and foremost, travel to these places. Alright, you've got a skill, you've got a skill. Staying here saying I don't have a job, or I'm not being given the power, or it's racism, or it's this and that, that will melt. Because the minute you come from the UK and you go to these places, you're looked at upon very differently. So you have a benefit of doubt. So essentially you could do things. So you could take that trade that you have, even if it's just to travel there. You see what I mean? You begin to make contacts, what you can sell here, what you could do here.
We're too individualistic.
Oh, that's the issue.
That's the
but
issue.
the only way you solve it is by first of all mingling.
All right, listen. We're too individualistic. We're talented. We have skills. We're academics. We are inventors. There's nothing about our race of people that doesn't put them on par than anybody else. But we're too individualistic. I would have liked to see this. Jamaica had its big road build, projects, and it still has it. Yeah. I would have liked to have seen some of our road engineers and our engineers that are over here to be able to tend for that bit, because they could have done that. But the problem is that one, they don't know where the information is. Two, they haven't set themselves up to be able to compete. So we can talk, I can understand about the tribalism on the ground floor. I understand that completely, and that's for us to deal with. But for us to move our generation that is coming forward, we have to organise.
Definitely.
You have to organise, but it has to follow. I'm into project management. When you're organising these things, it needs to be constructed in a way that is manageable. People know where they're coming from, what they're coming from, and how to source it.
I think I'll add to this. It's great, but first of all, forget about the organisation first of all. Make it a very loose one. So the first point of call is go out, mingle. Go to these places.
Can I say something?
Let me explain what I mean by that. The minute you do that, then things begin to form. In 2000, so let's say in 1994, all right, when the internet was first bubbling over, okay? Everybody was talking about it and doing it. Government had no clue. Even big businesses had no clue. But people just started playing around, including myself. And then suddenly, by 2000, it was kind of like, then you had the first tech boom, all right? Was there government intrusion in there? No. They still wanted it to form. Then the minute it started forming, then suddenly you start having things build up. So that's what I mean. But if you're going to try and create a system and you think people will fill it up, it's never worked. It's not going to work.
Can I give a small example? Can I give a small example of this here? Right? I got an event coming up here, and this actually addresses directly what Betty was saying a while ago. I've got an event coming up here in September. It's called the ACE Market, yeah, the African Centered Education Market, right? And it's all about bringing together businesses and institutions that cater for educational resources for black children, yeah. So from games to books to toys, got a couple, right? But the point is that what I realised was that there were more businesses doing stuff than a lot of people realise, more than even I realised. And so people who are looking for black dolls, they can't find them. So let's put on an event whereby the people that are making black dolls, the people that are writing black books, the people that are making these black games and whatever for the children can come together in one place, innit? It's just one small thing to raise awareness. Because before the event, nobody never knew each other existed. From that basis, the more networking we do, the consortium comes. Yeah, if we're continuing consistently, you know what I'm saying? So Betty ain't got to run around Manchester, yeah, for a doll.
And I get your perspective. Basically, the fact that you said that was perfect. My whole thing is this, I like to spend black.
So he wanted another.
My whole thing is there's a lot of black businesses here. I want to get your opinion as well on this thing.
Give it to me so I can pass them around, man.
I've only just got left on me today.
I basically there's a lot of black businesses, and when I can, I always go out my way to, even if it costs a little bit more, I'll go to an African or a Caribbean shop in it. But one thing I think businesses can do, they need to take some of that money that they're earning and put community stuff on. Every month, that shop there is putting on the community event, and then the community will know them and spend their money more. But I don't feel like
I agree with that.
people don't. Exactly, that's the missing thing. Everyone can spend black, but then they're taking them and
But
doing what
that's
they
what
want to do.
Garvey orchestrated. If you understand Garvey's structures. Businesses were created to allow the communities to be self-sufficient. Yeah? So you come and spend with me, we will take a portion of this money, combine it together and educate and feed our children. When our children become educated and they feed back and our community grows. Alright, one of the things that I have a problem with is this. Why, I'm not going to them jumping up the car, fresh out. You get what I mean? That's still that kind of divide mentality, but yet you go to the shop next door that has no representation of your community and spend your money.
You see, within the system that we live in, being in the United Kingdom, remember, it was not created for us, okay? So, and we're actually a minority. So, whatever system is going to be created would never really be about us. There might be something that accommodates, all right? But also, that's going to always be a dynamic issue. So the thing is to find, like I said, first of all, we need to resolve that issue. All right. The minute you can resolve why you don't like this person, when you really ask somebody why don't you like him, they can't give you an articulate answer. It's prejudice you're in their mind. Do you know what I mean? So the minute you could eliminate that, but you're not going to pretty much eliminate it 100%. But if you can remove some of it, and then people will begin to at least, then trade can happen. You know, because if you're on your own and you say, oh, I don't have a job, I have no friends, are you going to ever start a business? Because you don't know no one to connect with.
And that's what I'm saying. You've got young, talented young men who may not be those who did well in school for the obvious reason that the education system is not there to empower young black men to aspire to be greater things, right? So you've got a lot of energy and talent and entrepreneurism and innovative amongst our young men, and they've got no place to put it apart from music. And at the present moment, how much music can you really do? Because I know that there's some brothers out there, right, who are probably good engineers, good at medicine, good at anything that they put their mind to. And as a mother, this is my son, and I'm lucky to have him as my son. You understand? How we never have it easy, yeah? But there's one thing that he's focused on, and that is his self-belief as a king, as a black man, not to follow the stereotyped norms of what other people want him to be like. So, yeah, so for me, what I get frustrated about is this. When I look at my black brothers and I say that there is a need for some kind of organisation or leadership to help them on their journey. How can you look at your own black brother and fear him in his own eye? What happened last week, I don't want to touch back on it for too long, but made me shudder, because I turn around and I'm sitting in my house and I'm watching YouTube. It's my first time here, and I said, because I saw you one day when they were talking about going in the cage, and I was like, you don't need that. You understand? It made me shudder to see that other black men were willing to take out another black man for what? Foolishness. When the next man should have turned around and said to him, look, don't cuss my mum, and don't respect it, you understand? And in fact, I think you should apologise.
They get more angry at the black man saying your mum than the Muslim who struck him first. Yeah. People forget, they want to concentrate, he brought this respect into it, he brought the physical, they don't want to concentrate.
They don't want to concentrate.
Bias. And they're demons in the video when you see them people going crazy. Demons in that video, you know.
The thing is, family, as a collective, you've always known there's been a strong bias against us. Yeah. So this is what we should be using to unify
us.
And find truth. I think what we're talking about is a lack of networking.
Right, thank you.
There's many skills here that we're not aware of. So I think what I try to do, I run a collective called Mount Melanie. And basically, we network on WhatsApp, and every single activity, whether it's literature, economics, self-esteem, health, it's hundreds of black people just networking, you know, and everyone's welcome, every black person's welcome. So if you want, I can always take a number, whatever. And if you are looking for a dough, like Sister Berry is, well, we've got factories that make doughs, but she might not know where they are because she's not in that kind of network. So that's why when I come here, I tried to get all the positive, productive black people's numbers, so we can at least have that first place network that the brother was saying. You know, that first. So this is the formula of that.
Yeah.
Once we get to know each other, it's to the next step.
But I still feel people need to travel out. A lot of people.
Brother, I'm glad you said it because when we talk about networking, because the network's going on, there are people in Gambia, in Jamaica, who are doing that, and they're the ones feeding us. Do you know what I mean? So it's being done, but you haven't spoke to them, I haven't spoke to them, well, I have, but you haven't, from this perspective. So that's what I'm saying. We are in the building that bottom part. Yeah?
No, I tell you why it's so important. When I was 21, I started traveling out. I tell you what, the knowledge that I gained from just doing that, you learn to deal with different people. You know, you no longer look at prejudice as a thing, because you have the power to shift minds. Do you follow what I mean? But when you're stuck in your own environment, actually there's a study which I read many years ago, I don't know if it's still the same, that most people on the planet do not travel more than 500 kilometers outside from the place of their birth. So the people that you see flying around, taking airplanes, going all over, they probably constitute about 10% of the world's population. That's deep.
But my business is in Jamaica, and I'm telling you, the emerging markets, right? We're sleepwalking again into a colonial catastrophe. Right about now, right? We ain't even got no say in Africa. In Jamaica, I can turn around and say this right about now. North Coast in Jamaica is, the Colombians have bought it out, the Chinese have bought it out, and they're not buying business, they're buying land, and they're just sitting down on top of the land like this. Right? They're sitting down on top of the land like this. You can't buy land. Why are they sitting down on top of the land for?
You see, one thing I've come to realize is that I think when I look up, and I think it's a more brown thing, but let's say black people, we don't do long-term thinking. No. We're not strategic in our approach as a collective. Yeah? Individually, you can always point to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, match any black person that match any other type of race on the planet. But that collective thinking, I think that IQ level is very low because there's a need to have that collectiveness. You follow what I mean?
I think that connectiveness was kind of lost during the slavery.
I'm beginning to think that
my view on it is that slavery's happened. We all got separated around different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And then after slavery was abolished, we didn't go back home. We became nationalised to the place we stayed. So I feel that there's this missing identity that we've not acquired back until this point today. There's people that have had children from past slaves in America and all other parts of the world that have never gone back home. So them identifying themselves and who they are is very difficult. And I feel that there's the sense that there is a lot of black people around the world as a collective who cannot identify themselves, and therefore we are able to actually get together and come to something. Do you get what I mean?
Identity, always running to take away a next person's identity. And I just want to leave this before I go. Right now we're moving into the age of IT revolution. Where are they going to get all their minerals and all of those things to build those components? Right? All of that is coming from Africa. That is, so again, if we were thinking at the bigger picture, we should already be establishing business links with those areas to be able to manufacture those things.
Or we're not going to get it.
Yeah?
Remember, that requires long-term and strategic thinking.
Yeah, but this is where it does. But where do we start?
But one way
the white man's been sitting down strategically thinking for how long, and we're still there strategically thinking how to get out of that.
And that's why I said earlier, people need to start traveling. You know why? Because those opportunities sometimes will snowball you into a position that you didn't think you could be. Do you know what I mean? But if you're going to wait here and think, I'm going to deal, even if you wanted to trade with China for today, if you wanted to trade with China and you say, I'm going to stay here and get things bought from my factory, I bet you will get burned 2 or 3 times before you find the right supplier. So how do you think you're going to sit here and try and get a guy to...
Great business heads.
So you have to travel because that's how you make those connections. That's all it is.
But Black people ain't
What
gonna
happens
feel it
when
because we don't have no
automation
job
takes
anyway.
jobs
so.
away and you start having AI and creativeness starts to go away because now computers are capable of, creating things for us to build and whatnot without us manually having to sketch and design these things.
Well, when it comes
what happens when the jobs decrease for everybody?
When it comes to
Our
AI,
culture-
it's not about black or white anymore.
No, but
okay,
I'm
it's
trying
like
to say
everybody.
that jobs will be lost and there's going to be people out of pocket. So what happens to our culture at that point when we're having lesser now because more of us are out of work. You know what I mean? There's lesser money.
When you say out of work, if you're creating your own industry, you're creating your own niche.
But what industry are we going to get into? Because it's
trying to
clear
say.
now. It's clear now there's many different industries. What are we going to choose and get involved in that is owned in the future of things? That is going to financially support us.
I push for the collective to learn like IT skills, like programming, development, app building, web, responsive web, this kind of stuff. This is my field, my area. And I've always invited people to learn that. Just like, the most profitable food company doesn't sell food. The most profitable cab factory company doesn't own a cab. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's this kind of middleman, middlewoman kind of industries out there. But the irony is we've been talking about networking. A lot of these apps, that's all they do. If you want food, you take an app and you pay, and it's got every single shop in the thing. So I'm thinking that this could be a solution, as in trying to make an app that unifies black people collectively.
Black businesses as
This is something that I'm personally producing. But you're always welcome to jump on board the scene. I've got documentation, videos. So before you go, if you put your number in here, so what I do is every time I come, I make I take people's names and I add them. So all these people have been joined, and so just put your name and number there. And if you're on WhatsApp, that's how we do it. So we're using WhatsApp now, but the idea is to use something else because if they say if they want to cut down the system, we can't do that. That's their thing, innit, right? So I'm saying it's a step-by-step process, but it starts at the brother says at the bottom.
I've been having this conversation like for 30 odd years and I still ain't. You understand? It's like at the end of the day, I've just gone into individual mode because
I'm going to give you a documentation so you can see where I'm at. I've become a speaker school. Speaker school is not what I do, but I come because it's a good platform. But I'm trying to live the truth I'm saying. And there's other people doing the same, and you're welcome to join. But we basically preach about black betterment building. Black people helping other black people on black issues.
Definitely.
Very simple.
Yeah, I believe that.
Very simple.
All right.
Yeah. So, brother, you're always welcome yourself. I don't know if you're on WhatsApp.
All right, you have a good evening, yeah? What's your name?
Abroad most of the time.
Well, that's even better.
What's your name?
Raven.
Oh, it's Raven in the park.
Yeah, that's I'm Raven. I'm the guy. Yeah.
All right.
That's me, brother. Look after your mother, yeah? Raise your well.
Come take over everything from your belly.
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Everyone they can to murder and make people feel like lesser than them in the world is a stereotype that I hold and I feel and we know them. It continues to get perpetuated in the media and how you guys interact. So I'm asking you, what are you doing in your community to stop that rhetoric? Because you're doing it right now. I can't stop the